Palo Alto, the heart of Silicon Valley, is a place where Teslas line the sidewalks, cafes buzz with investors, and every conversation could spark a billion-dollar idea. But on that quiet Tuesday morning, a man walked into Hillview Market unnoticed by everyone. Jordan Hale, a reclusive black tech billionaire and founder of one of the nation's top AI platforms, had arrived alone. No bodyguards, no assistants, no luxury cars. He wore a simple light gray suit, dark sunglasses, and drove an old Toyota borrowed from a friend. No vanity plates, no entourage, no attention. Jordan moved slowly through the aisles, pausing at the produce section to inspect a bunch of kale, checking the expiration on almond milk, then picking up a few bottles of mineral water. Nestled among the items in his cart was a glistening bottle of imported olive oil, the expensive kind, cold-pressed from Italy. No phone in his hand, no conference calls, no investors to impress. Just a moment of quiet, a brief return to something he hadn't felt in a long time. Normalcy. That's what he wanted most. A moment where he could exist as just another person in a grocery store. No speeches, no spotlights, no second guesses. He wasn't looking for recognition. He just wanted peace. He rolled his cart forward, heading toward the checkout. He smiled politely at a little boy in a red hoodie who stared at him curiously. For a few seconds, it felt like a morning, just like any other, until it wasn't. A sharp beep sliced through the store, loud and sudden, a security alarm, and just like that, the calm shattered. And something far bigger began. The sharp, high-pitched beeping of the store's security alarm pierced through the quiet morning air, making several customers look up from their shopping. Jordan froze, both hands still resting on the handle of his cart, which hadn't even reached the checkout line. A young employee wearing a Hillview Market name tag, Kevin, quickly approached, his posture tense and eyes locked on Jordan. Without greeting or context, Kevin pointed at the olive oil in Jordan's cart and spoke loudly enough for others to hear. "Sir, I need you to stop right there. We've just received a theft alert in this area." Jordan blinked, confused. Everything he had picked up was still clearly visible in the cart, unbagged and unpaid for. Calmly, he replied, "I haven't paid yet. I'm still shopping. That bottle is in my cart, just like the rest of my items." But Kevin wasn't listening. He picked up his store radio and muttered quickly into it. "Security, I need assistance at aisle 4. Possible theft in progress. Male suspect. Took an $11 bottle of olive oil." Shoppers nearby began to whisper. Some moved away, some stared, and some already made up their minds. Jordan could feel the shift, the chill that came not from the store's air conditioning, but from years of learned recognition. The subtle turn of suspicion, the presumption of guilt, the heavy silence that follows. He straightened his back and raised his hands slightly off the cart. "I haven't stolen anything. If you'd like, we can review the security footage together." Kevin shook his head. "That's not my job. The police are on their way. Please remain where you are." Just a few minutes later, flashing blue and red lights reflected off the glass entrance of Hillview Market. 2 patrol cars pulled up. Inside, Jordan Hale, a man who had once given a keynote at the United Nations and advised White House tech policy, stood quietly in aisle 4, labeled a thief for a bottle of olive oil he hadn't even tried to hide. And somewhere near the bakery section, a college student named Tasha Moore gripped her phone tighter, thumb hovering over the record button. Something told her, "Don't look away." The glass doors at the front of Hillview Market slid open with their usual soft chime, this time revealing 2 uniformed officers entering with focused, alert expressions. One was tall, broad-shouldered, with sandy hair and a rigid demeanor. His name tag read Officer Bradshaw. The other, younger and quieter, with a hint of hesitation in his eyes, was Officer Reyes. Kevin, the store employee, wasted no time. He waved them over and pointed at Jordan. "That's him. He tried to conceal an item. Imported olive oil. Said he hadn't paid yet, but it looked suspicious. I thought it was best to call it in." Jordan stood calmly a few feet away, both hands still in plain sight. He didn't run, didn't raise his voice. He met the officer's eyes and spoke steadily. "I'm still in the store. I haven't gone through checkout. The item's right there in my cart. along with everything else. I'm more than willing to review the security footage with you. Officer Reyes paused. His eyes flickered. The kind of pause that signals doubt, or perhaps an inner conflict. But before he could speak, Officer Bradshaw stepped forward, voice firm and unapologetic. Sir, please place your hands behind your back. You're being detained for suspected shoplifting. Jordan inhaled slowly, remaining composed. You're making a mistake. I haven't committed a crime. I'm fully cooperating. There's no need for handcuffs. Bradshaw didn't flinch. Standard procedure. The click of the cuffs echoed louder than it should have. Cold metal. Public humiliation. A few customers gasped. A mother pulled her young son closer. A teenage boy nearby began filming, but most just watched. Uncertain, frozen, complicit in their silence. Jordan, the same man who had once been profiled on the cover of Forbes, the same man whose innovations had shaped national security and healthcare AI, was now being marched out of a grocery store in handcuffs, his dignity stripped away for all to see. He said nothing, but in his silence was a defiance sharper than any protest. A quiet, deliberate message. I know what this is. I've seen it before, but this time, you will too. From the side of the aisle, Tasha Moore, her hands trembling slightly, hit record, and in doing so, she lit the first spark of a wildfire. Tasha Moore stood still just outside the automatic doors of Hillview Market, her thumb hovering over the screen as she finally tapped stop recording. She had just captured a full 2-minute video. A tall black man, calm, sharply dressed, cooperative, being handcuffed and escorted out by 2 police officers, accused of stealing a bottle of olive oil he hadn't even attempted to conceal. Tasha didn't know who he was, but something in his silence, in the way he stood tall, despite the indignity, gripped her. She couldn't walk away. She opened TikTok. No filters, no edits, just raw footage and a short caption. This is what shopping while black still looks like in 2025. Justice for Jordan, Yashawari's Hillview incident, just racial profiling. Within minutes of posting, the notifications started rolling in. 1,203 views, 4,871, 22,340, 108,000. Then the numbers exploded. The internet caught fire. Twitter was ablaze with outrage. He wasn't even outside the store. This is ridiculous. If this is how a calm, respectful black man is treated in 2025, we've learned nothing. Does anyone know who he is? He handled that with more grace than I ever could. Hashtags trended globally. # Justice for Jordan. # Racial bias in retail. # Hillview profiling. Instagram creators reposted the video. TikTok duets flooded in. Black professionals across the country shared similar stories of being followed, watched, or wrongfully accused in offices, stores, airports. And then, someone recognized him. Wait, that's Jordan Hale, the AI guy. He's a billionaire. The shockwaves grew stronger. This wasn't just a case of racial profiling anymore. It was a reckoning. Major news outlets picked up the story within hours. CNN, MSNBC, NPR. Local reporters were outside Hillview Market by sundown, demanding statements. Tasha was flooded with interview requests. But more than that, people started asking deeper questions. If he can be treated this way, what chance do the rest of us have? While Jordan remained in custody, unaware of the storm building outside those police station walls, his silence was speaking louder than ever, and the world had finally decided to listen. 12:30 p.m., Palo Alto Police Department. Jordan Hale sat quietly in the small, sterile interrogation room. The handcuffs were gone, but the sting of humiliation remained. Sharp, quiet, and familiar. The door creaked open. A senior officer entered, carrying a laptop and a thin folder. He avoided eye contact as he set the documents on the table. We reviewed the surveillance footage from Hillview Market, he said, voice clipped, along with the video that's gone viral online. He paused. A beat of awkward silence filled the room. Then he continued, You did not commit a crime. The video shows you inside the store, shopping. At no point did you attempt to leave without paying. The item was still in your cart. Your detainment was A mistake. Jordan looked up slowly. His expression was calm, unreadable, but his voice carried the weight of 1,000 moments like this. And if there hadn't been a video, what then? The question hung in the air like a challenge. The officer didn't answer. "We're sorry for the inconvenience," he finally said. "You're free to go." Jordan stood. He adjusted the cuffs of his blazer, an instinctive, quiet reclaiming of dignity. He turned to leave, then stopped at the door. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't deliver a speech. Just 5 quiet words, like a promise. "This is far from over." An hour later, Jordan walked out of the station into a sea of cameras, flashing lights and reporters yelling his name. "Mr. Hale, do you plan to press charges? Do you believe this was racially motivated? Is there anything you want to say to the public?" He stepped up to the microphones, calm, measured, powerful. "I've been silent for a long time, but now it's time we talk." And with that sentence, a new chapter in Jordan Hale's life began. No longer just a tech visionary, he was now becoming something more, a catalyst for change. The following day, and across every major social platform and news network, the story of Jordan Hale was no longer just a viral video. It had become a national flashpoint. Headlines dominated the front pages. "Handcuffed for shopping, when skin color becomes the first suspicion." Black tech billionaire detained over $11 billion olive oil. Outrage follows. Justice for Jordan surpasses 50 million shares in 48 hours. Outside Hillview Market, 9 a.m. a peaceful protest had formed. Dozens, then hundreds, gathered holding hand-painted signs. "Buying is not stealing. Color not equal to criminal. End racial profiling now." Among the crowd was Tasha Moore, no longer behind the camera, but shoulder to shoulder with the people she had helped awaken. Reporters covered the event live. CNN, MSNBC, local Bay Area channels, all pointing their cameras toward the storefront now under siege by truth. "This is the second day of protests outside Hillview Market in Palo Alto," one reporter said. "Demonstrators are demanding a formal apology, internal investigation, and lasting policy change." That afternoon, Hillview Market responded. At an impromptu press conference, the CEO of the Hillview grocery chain stood stiffly at a podium, facing dozens of cameras. "We offer our sincere apology to Mr. Jordan Hale. The actions taken at our Palo Alto branch were unacceptable and did not reflect the values we stand for. We are conducting a full internal review and will re-examine our training policies regarding bias and customer engagement." But the apology wasn't enough. The internet remembered, and this time, it demanded more than words. On social media, the response deepened. Thousands began sharing their own experiences, being watched, followed, accused, all without reason. Black doctors, lawyers, students, and mothers posted their stories with one shared sentiment. "This could have been me." A-list celebrities weighed in. A Pulitzer-winning journalist tweeted, "If this can happen to a billionaire, imagine what happens to someone with no platform, no name, no voice." A U.S. senator posted, "We must confront the systems that make people guilty before they speak." Through it all, Jordan Hale remained silent, but deliberate. No interviews, no tweet storms. He was building something behind the scenes, and soon the world would learn what happens when someone who built empires of code decides to start rewriting the code of society. 3 days after the incident at Hillview Market, while the internet buzzed, protests grew, and media outlets replayed the video on loop, Jordan Hale made his move. But not with a lawsuit, not with anger, with something much bigger. At a small community hall in downtown Palo Alto, Jordan held a press conference. No flashy banners, no corporate logos, just a modest wooden podium and a plain white banner behind him with 3 words in bold, "Change starts here." Jordan stepped up to the microphone. The room was full. Reporters, students, faith leaders, activists, and ordinary citizens. His voice was steady, clear, and unshakably calm. "I wasn't handcuffed because I did something wrong. I was handcuffed because a system trained someone to fear someone who looks like me." He paused. "And I won't let that system keep going unchecked." Jordan announced the launch of a new nationwide initiative, The Hale Project, a platform not built on outrage, but on solutions, real, measurable, human. The Hale Project, built on three pillars: bias training and education, mandatory unconscious bias training for retail workers, police officers, and public employees, in collaboration with psychologists, sociologists, and community organizers. Real-life scenario simulations, not just online checklists. Legal Defense Network, a dedicated fund to provide free legal aid to individuals wrongfully profiled, detained, or mistreated. Fast response legal teams for incidents caught on video or reported by witnesses. Partnerships with civil rights attorneys and universities. Community storytelling grants. Scholarships and mentorships for young people like Tasha Moore, who used media to spark change. Creation of a digital truth archive, collecting and sharing stories from across the country. Workshops teaching marginalized communities how to document injustice and demand accountability. The room erupted in applause, not out of pity, but because something real had begun. That night, the Hale Project's website crashed from too many visitors. In 24 hours, it had raised over $5 million in grassroots donations. Major corporations, including NetWave, LearnOne, and Bluebank, pledged long-term partnerships. Jordan wasn't finished. He walked over to the side of the room where a familiar face was seated, Tasha Moore. "Tasha," he said softly, "you didn't just film a moment. You helped to shift a movement." He handed her an envelope. Inside, a full scholarship to any university program in media or communications. An offer to lead Story Lab, a wing of the Hale Project focused on empowering young creators to change narratives through storytelling. Tasha's hands trembled. "I just pressed record," she whispered. Jordan smiled. "Number U gave people a reason to watch, and now they're listening." Within 72 hours of the Hale Project's launch, momentum surged like wildfire. Donations exceeded $5 million from individuals, social impact funds, and mission-driven businesses. Over 40,000 people signed up as volunteers, organizers, or monthly supporters through the website. Emails flooded in from college professors, community leaders, high school students, all asking the same question: how can we help? Across the nation, major universities reached out, inviting the Hale Project to lead workshops on bias awareness and media accountability. Churches, nonprofits, and city councils began forming local branches under the Hale Project's framework. Retail chains pledged to adopt the program's training modules, not because of pressure, but because change felt inevitable. Back at the Hale Project's temporary headquarters in Palo Alto, the once quiet community center now pulsed with life. Laptops hummed. Phones rang constantly. Whiteboards were filled with flowcharts and campaign ideas. At the corner desk sat a now familiar face, Tasha Moore. No longer just the girl behind the phone camera, she was now director of Story Lab, leading a small but mighty team of young storytellers. Jordan approached her desk one afternoon, watching her edit a video submission from a high schooler in Detroit who had filmed his own experience of being profiled. "You're building something incredible," Jordan said. Tasha turned, modest as always. "I'm just giving people a way to be heard." Jordan handed her a folder. "This is your invitation to speak at Howard University, and a grant to launch a digital archive of truth for stories like yours, like mine, like his." He gestured to the screen. Tasha blinked, overwhelmed. "I used to think no one would listen to someone like me." Jordan smiled gently. "Now you're teaching others how to make the world listen." Meanwhile, all across America, Hillview Market launched mandatory anti-bias training for all employees nationwide. The Seattle, Austin, and Baltimore police departments began pilot partnerships with the Hale Project for de-escalation and sensitivity training. Online creators and activists began producing mini-documentaries inspired by Tasha's video. In one school district, teachers played Tasha's original footage for students during morning assembly. In a town hall in Ohio, a teenage girl stood up and shared, "This isn't just about one man in one store. This is about my dad, about my brother, about all of us." And suddenly it was clear. This wasn't just a movement, it was becoming a shift in culture. 1 month after the Hillview Market incident, what began as a single injustice had become a national reckoning. not through outrage alone, but through action. 1. Major retailers respond. Following intense media scrutiny and public pressure, several national retail chains rolled out sweeping changes. Hillview Market introduced mandatory anti-bias training for all employees across the U.S., implemented a new three-step verification process before police could be called for suspected shoplifting, began hosting monthly community town halls with local leaders and civil rights advocates. Fresh Mart and Urban Supply signed formal partnerships with the Hale Project for ongoing employee education and training, established diversity and equity oversight committees made up of staff from all backgrounds to review customer complaints. What once felt like a PR scramble had become the start of structural change. 2 police departments begin reform. The ripple effect reached law enforcement. Palo Alto Police Department released a public statement acknowledging procedural overreach, adopted new internal policies emphasizing de-escalation techniques, cultural sensitivity, pre-contact bias recognition, Seattle, Austin, and Baltimore, launched pilot programs in collaboration with the Hale Project to train recruits in ethical engagement and anti-bias protocol, pledged annual review of use of force incidents with independent oversight. For the first time in years, some communities reported a rise in public trust, not because everything had changed, but because someone had finally started the work. 3. Schools and institutions join in universities across the country, from Howard to Stanford, added case studies of Jordan Hale and Tasha Moore to curricula in sociology, media ethics, and civil rights law. At Howard University, a new course launched, Everyday Justice, Systems, Storytelling, and Social Shift. Tasha Moore guest lectured the first class. The students gave her a standing ovation. Fourth Media, Film and National Reflection. A respected independent studio announced production of a multi-part documentary series titled Presumed Guilty, The Jordan Hale Story. The series would explore the incident at Hillview Market, the rise of the Hale Project, everyday examples of systemic bias in modern America. It wouldn't just tell Jordan's story, it would give the floor to those whose stories never went viral. 5. The human impact beyond policies and programs. The most powerful change could be seen in the messages Jordan and Tasha received daily. Because of you, I spoke up for someone being mistreated on the bus. I used to stay silent. Now I organize a community dialogue circle every month. My son saw your video and asked me what justice means. We had the best talk of our lives. Change rarely starts with a law. It starts with a question, then a story, then a choice. And all across the country, people were finally making different choices. 3 months after the Hillview Market incident, Jordan Hale released something unexpected. Not a speech, not another program, but a short film. It was called Mistaken but Not Silent. The premiere was held at a small independent theater in Oakland. There was no red carpet, no press junket, just folding chairs, real people, and a single screen glowing in the dark. The audience included young activists, teachers, former detainees, store clerks, police trainees, and the woman who filmed the moment that started it all, Tasha Moore. The film didn't begin with the handcuffs. It began with a close-up shot of a black man selecting kale in a grocery store, moving slowly and thoughtfully. Jordan's voiceover cut through the stillness. I used to think success could protect me, that if I worked hard enough, stayed quiet long enough, wore the right suit, the world would see me as human. I was wrong. The short film didn't tell a hero's tale, it told a human one. It featured interviews not just with Jordan and Tasha, but with Officer Reyes, who hesitated but said nothing, Kevin, the store clerk, who later confessed he had been trained to assume, a middle schooler in Detroit, who said he once saw his dad get handcuffed the same way. There were no villains, only a system, only patterns, and people trying to see them clearly, maybe for the first time. In the final scene, a little boy stands in front of his classroom. He says quietly, "I saw a man on TV get arrested for something he didn't do. I asked my mom if that could happen to me. She didn't say no." The screen fades to black, and then one final line appears. In silence, white letters on black. Prejudice doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers in everyday actions. What will you do the next time injustice knocks quietly? The credits rolled in silence. No one moved. No one clapped right away. People sat with their hands still, breathing softer, eyes wet. Outside the theater, Jordan didn't stand under lights or cameras. He simply shook hands one by one, from janitors to journalists. A woman whispered as she hugged him, "I didn't know I was holding my breath until I saw your story." He replied gently, "Now we breathe together." The film spread online. Millions watched. It was played in classrooms, training rooms, family living rooms. And the message, simple, piercing, unforgettable, stayed with people long after the screen went dark. One video had captured injustice. One project had organized it into change. And one story, told without shouting, had helped a nation listen.